We all know how good Travis Hunter is supposed to be, but Coach Prime said that he was better than he was. I'll talk about that and more on today's episode of Locked On Buffs.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? This is Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba, as usual. And today we're going to talk about Coach Prime's praise for Travis Hunter, the two-way star in Colorado that followed him over from Jackson State, former number one overall recruit, might I add. We're also going to touch on some more transfer portal updates. More guys are out. Colorado's pursuing a few more guys since yesterday has passed. And then we're going to conclude with ESPN's FPI prediction for Colorado, projection, if you will, for Colorado. Wasn't great. We're going to discuss that and probably why the computer was wrong on this one. But let's first dive into Coach Prime's comments on Travis Hunter. And before we do, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Buffs your first listen of the day. Travis Hunter, we all know who he is, former number one overall recruit. John Garcia Jr., who's on the show with me frequently. He's a Florida guy. He watched Travis up close and personal during his recruitment and said that Travis has the best ball skills he's ever seen. Coach Prime, who obviously is one of the best football players regardless of position ever, has coached Travis for 2 years now. He recruited him to Jackson State away from powers like Florida State and Georgia, and now he's a coach at Colorado where he's going to play receiver and he's going to play defensive back. He was asked by the media recently his thoughts on Travis, and he did not hold back in terms of highlighting how good Travis could be. And so I wanted to share that with you guys. Again, I'm really getting good at this, sharing my screen stuff, so appreciate you guys. Here we go.
Back to Travis Hunter real quick. I mean, you talk about the way he plays, the way he balls. Does he remind you of you in terms of his athletic approach, if you will?
Travis is better. Travis is I'd never got the opportunity to do what he's getting the opportunity to do. That helps having a coach that has done it before. And we're recruiting guys that has a vision of playing both ways. But no, Travis is better than I was at the aging stage. He may be not as fast, but the intangibilities and who he is, he's better. He's a better version of at this aging stage. Yeah, he really is. By far.
Coach Prime, back to Travis.
I mean, that's as crazy as it gets. What an endorsement right there. That's a Hall of Famer saying that he's better than him. I wanted to kind of bring up Coach Prime's stats from college to compare. Kind of compare the two. Like he said, he didn't get a chance to really focus on playing both ways. He was more so just a defensive player and a special teams guy. Special teams, he had over 100, nearly 130 kick returns, punt returns, or he had 130 punt returns in his career. Had 1,400 return yards and punts, 3 touchdowns, had 3 kick returns, or 1 kick return, in his college career. And whereas Travis Hunter, who dominated the high school level at receiver and defensive back, will now get a chance to play receiver and defensive back at Colorado at the Pac-12 level. It's going to be an exciting show for Travis Hunter. He's got great ball skills, showed great potential at Jackson State. I think he's pretty athletic and has a wide catch radius that people don't realize his catch radius is as big as it is. I also thought an interesting part of that Coach Prime's answer was that and this is kind of building off Travis Hunter and more so focusing on other guys, is that they like guys that want to play two ways, and they embrace that at Colorado, which I think as a baseball player myself, I think that was one of the biggest things in baseball too. When you move up in the levels, everybody wants to do everything. Nobody wants to focus on one thing. And football, I think it's similar to where guys, especially at the high school level, guys like a Travis Hunter or I guess, I don't know, Mateo Uyungale, I guess you could say, the Oregon 5-star. He played tight end and defensive end in high school, and maybe he'd be interested in doing both. This is just off the top of my head. Maybe he'd be interested in doing both. I think that's an appeal to high school recruits that Colorado's just adding to their repertoire. I think a lot of high school recruits think they're good enough. I think, well, first of all, every player thinks they're good enough to do it all. But especially the elite recruits. They think they're good enough, and a lot of them are. I'm not saying they're not, but they think they're good enough to play both ways in a college. And most colleges just want them to focus on one position. And so I think it'll be interesting to see if that's a recruiting tactic that Colorado continues to use. But the praise for Travis Hunter is just out of this world. I think we've seen Deion Sanders obviously hype him up. We've seen Sean Lewis talk about how good he is. And now we've seen Coach Prime say he's better than he was at this age, which is honestly, I think, setting the stage for Travis Hunter to be one of college football's most dynamic players, probably burst onto the scene nationally. I think we all know who Travis Hunter is, but I don't know if the national landscape is ready for how good he can be. And so it'll be a fascinating season for Travis Hunter. And I'm excited to see him this weekend when I head to Boulder. So yeah, very excited to see what Travis could do. And I think if I had to make a bold prediction, I'm gonna go. This is Travis Hunter's stat line. I'm gonna go 25 plus catches. We'll go 5 touchdowns. I don't know the yards because I don't know. I'll throw it. I'll say like 400 to 500. And then interceptions wise, I'm gonna go 3 or 4, and then let me go 30 tackles. We'll come back to this moment. We'll see how close I was or how far I was, but that's my initial prediction. Guys, obviously baseball season has started, so there's grand slams, no hitters, and double plays. They're all back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now new customers can step up to the plate with a no sweat first bet to $1,000. Just go to fanduel.com/locked-on. Sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. Aaron Judge to hit a home run. That's always a good one. A pitcher to go over on strikeouts, whether it's Shohei Ohtani, I don't know, whoever your favorite pitcher is. So don't miss your chance to get a no sweat first bet to $1,000 when you go to FanDuel. When you join FanDuel today, just go to fanduel.com/locked-on to sign up. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball. Okay, back to the nitty gritty. The transfer portal. Colorado is a big mover and shaker in the transfer portal, and I believe, let's see, let me pull it up. Colorado transfer portal. They had another entry today from them, which obviously I talked about Matt Rule, which if you didn't see that, go check it out. That episode is going crazy right now. I appreciate all your guys' support. Matt Rule kind of all the Nebraska fans are saying it's not about Colorado. First of all, it is evidently about Colorado. I think Coach Prime has been, and no fault of his own, I think that's just the method he likes to go with. He's been very vocal about how he wants to attack the transfer portal. And Matt Rule, on the other hand, is sticking with his guns. Matt Rule also didn't inherit a program that went 1-11 and he just doesn't have the recruiting potential that Coach Prime does. I mean, Coach Prime is a generational recruiter, and we've seen that already, and we're seeing it in the transfer portal. But back to the guys who have left. If you didn't watch yesterday's episode, Chance Main, he was an edge rusher. He was no longer with the program, got an extra year of eligibility. He's in the portal. Dylan Dixon, the highest ranked recruit from last year's class, the safety. Keyshawn Mills, a corner, is in the portal. Nico Reed, a starting corner from last year, in the portal. Jail Stacks, or I think it's Jail Stacks, is how you pronounce his name. Running back is in the portal. Austin Smith, a tight end, in the portal. Linebacker Katie Ludwig, defensive lineman Ryan Williams, defensive lineman Tyus Martin, and then corner Simeon Harris was the latest entry. Had some bright spots, but enough of who's out. Let's talk about who Colorado is pursuing. So again, if you didn't see yesterday's, I'll just go over these guys quickly. Emmanuel Pregnon, the inside lineman from Wyoming. I think he plays guard or center. He could play either one, but I think he projects as a guard. Currently the number 2 player in the portal behind Bear Alexander. Yesterday, he was ranked number 1. Other schools in the mix for him: UCLA, Penn State, Tennessee. Miles Rouser, a safety from Campbell. Did a little research on him because I was interested. When I looked him up, he was a 4-star out of high school, was committed to Arkansas, and then all of a sudden just randomly flipped to Campbell. Nobody saw it coming, so not sure what happened there, but other schools that are pursuing him at the moment: Washington State, Western Kentucky, and then UNC Charlotte. Cameron Johnson, the Houston offensive lineman. He is, I believe it's down to USC and Missouri. He visited Colorado. Not sure if it was enough or if USC and Missouri are just more enticing to him at this moment. Then we have Varquez Gums, the tight end from North Texas. Huge production this past year. I think another pass playmaker in the passing game helps. Let me pull up his stats right here because they were pretty impressive. This past season, he was a second team freshman All-American, played in 14 games, caught 34 passes for nearly 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. So obviously, the more playmakers, the better, excuse me. Then there's Jackson State linebacker Juriente Davis, had his best season at middle linebacker this past season. I think Colorado could use some more linebacker help. That's kind of been my biggest nitpick with them. And then this was the guys that I added today to my transfer portal tracker, which I will link in the comment section below, just in case you guys want to follow along and don't want to hear me talking. You want to see pictures and where they're ranked in high school and stuff like that. Brendan Gant, a linebacker from Florida State, currently being recruited by all the Florida schools practically, and Tennessee State. Former 4-star, top 120 recruit. Then there's Troy Everett, a center from App State. Schools like Cincinnati, UNLV, Oklahoma are after him. I think, and after these next couple, I'll break down what this means. Wide receiver, EJ Horton, excuse me, from Marshall. Had a pretty good season this past year, caught for nearly 200 yards, made some nice catches. And then Cameron Robinson from North Texas. Schools like Cal, SMU, and Indiana are after him. So, excuse me. I think it's obvious what Coach Prime and the roster are transferring. We have one. Well, let's just go. We got off the rip. We have one offensive lineman, 2 offensive linemen, three offensive linemen, a handful of edge rushers, a handful of linebackers. So it's evident that they're trying to bolster the trenches and they're trying to get some linebacker help, which are the 3 positions, I guess, that I've been saying this whole time that Colorado needs to bolster. And I think it's evident in the guys that they're pursuing that they want more help in the trenches. I think the best way a team could succeed right away, a team like Colorado who take a shot right here, 1 game out of 12 games this past season. You got to get bigger in the trenches. It doesn't matter who you got on the roster already. I know they've already signed or they've already landed some transfers from Kent State on the offensive line. They've already landed some edge rusher. They got Dave Harris from Old Dominion just a couple of days ago. It doesn't matter. You need to get bigger. You need to get stronger. You need to get more disruptors. And so the more disruptors, the better. I think being able to rotate a bunch of playmakers and guys that could cause havoc on the defensive line, the more the better, the more the merrier. As they say, linebacker help. You're getting more support for Demoy Kennedy, Levante Bentley, taking the pressure off some of those guys. And so I think they want to get more physical. They want to get stronger, and they want to exceed the expectations that currently a lot of programs, I'm sure some programs maybe behind closed doors are talking some ish about Colorado, but a lot of outlets are currently have the Buffs at maybe 500, sub 500. And so to defeat that notion, you have to get more physical. You have to get stronger. Colorado, which again, it's hard to compare them to last season because, for example, I cover Stanford as well. And so Stanford, I look at the defensive line last year. They struggled to stop the run. They struggled to get to the quarterback. They returned a lot of key young guys. They returned some key veterans on the defensive line. So theoretically, they should be better at getting to the quarterback, and they should be better at rushing the passer and stopping the run. Colorado is basically going to have new starters at every position. So it's hard to compare them because it's a totally different roster. But last season, they did rank at the bottom in practically every category. So not great. But now with all these new transfers and new bodies, big bodies too. Some of these guys are massive. They're giving themselves a chance to kind of exceed these expectations, which I will talk about these expectations right after I thank you guys for making Locked On Bus your first listen of the day. Tomorrow should be a good one. More transfer portal updates, more Coach Prime stuff. I obviously will be heading to Boulder towards the end of the week, and so I'll have interviews with Sean Lewis, Charles Kelly. I'm also going to hopefully be talking to Coach Prime at the spring game, so that'll be exciting. So yeah, stay tuned. Stay tuned this week. We got some great ones coming up. But it's time to dive into, because we've talked about, obviously, Coach Prime has brought in some great talent. He's brought in Travis Hunter, who he said is better than him at this point than he was during his career, which is, again, pretty crazy considering he's an NFL Hall of Famer, one of the best football players ever. We just touched on who's in, who's out of the transfer portal. Well, who's out and who's possibly in. None of them are officially in yet, but hey, You just got to get progress, make progress. I think Colorado's spring game this weekend, which will be sold out, nationally televised. It's going to have so many viewers. It's going to be insane. Lots of people will be watching. So that just makes them more popular. They're going to see a lot of places where they maybe could fit in. But even with all this hype, where Colorado is still being doubted, ESPN's FPI was dropped today, which the FPI is a little complicated, so I'm just going to read verbatim what their description is. The Football Power Index is a measure of team strength that is meant to be the best predictor of a team's performance going forward for the rest of the season. FPI represents how many points above or below average a team is. Projected results are based on 20,000 simulations of the rest of the season using FPI result to date and the remaining schedule. Ratings and projections update daily. FPI data from seasons prior to 2019 may not be complete. Okay, so basically it projects how good a team can be using like the data from 20,000 simulations. Okay, I wrote about it over at my other site where I cover Stanford, and I broke down where every team in the Pac-12 ranks, how many wins they're projected to get, and then their chance of winning 6 games and chance of winning the Pac-12. And then for the teams that have a chance to make it to the playoff and win the championship, I also included those. Colorado, surprisingly, was dead last, below Stanford, which I'm very openly not afraid to admit. Stanford is in the midst of a rebuild. I think if you look up the definition of a rebuild, it'll find a picture of Stanford there. They've lost a ton of talent. Whereas Colorado's, they lost a lot of people, but they've been able to replenish with a ton of talent, loads of talents, and they're still going. But let me give you the breakdown of Colorado and kind of tell you why I think this is incorrect. So far, we got Colorado ranked number 95 in the country, according to the FPI. They project to win 2.6 games, so basically we'll call it 3 games. And then they gave them a 1.7% chance of winning 6 games, which means a 1.7 chance of making a bowl game, and then a 0% chance to win the Pac-12. Wow. That's crazy. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because the roster is not complete. We haven't seen this roster. So, benefit of the doubt given, sure. Now it's time to tear them apart and tell them where they're wrong. Projected wins 2.6. I think just in Pac-12 play alone, I think they'll beat Stanford. I think they could beat the Arizona schools. I think they'll beat Colorado State. I know they'll beat Colorado State. TCU, they should beat them. Nebraska's gonna be intense. So that's 5 games off the top of my head right now. UCLA, they could beat them. 6 games right there. We're at 6 already, and don't even have the schedule in front of me. So I think their percent chance of 1.7 to win 6 games is a little off base, but the 0% chance to win the Pac-12 doesn't. I think they have a better than zero. I would say it's not a huge chance, but I do think they have a puncher's chance. I think if everything goes right, Shedeur Sanders plays like an elite quarterback that I think we all think he can be. I think for Colorado to play for the Pac-12 championship in year 1, they would need elite offensive play led by Shedeur Sanders, and then they would need above average to good defensive play in this Pac-12 because the Pac-12 quarterback talent is just unreal. So the conference championship odds do not bother me as much, but the 6 win odds, I think Colorado should be hovering around 5 to 7 wins. I think that's realistic, and I think with the more talent they add, it's only getting more and more likely that they surpass that mark. So the fact that, because let me just read you the rest of the rankings. Stanford projected 4 wins. Percent chance of winning 6 games, 17, which is up 18% up 16%. Sorry, math is hard. From Colorado. Arizona State, new coach, similar to Colorado. New coach, revamped roster through the portal. They tried to recruit better. They did okay. They did okay for their standards. Projected wins 4.8, basically 5%. Chance of winning 6 games, 30.7. Washington State, which I think they're very low on for some reason. Projected wins 5.5. Projected chance of winning 6 games, basically 50% chance. Colorado is going to have arguably one of the most underrated wide receiver cores in the country. I think their offensive line while there's a lot of bodies in there, it's actually very crazy when you look at the depth chart and it's like all transfers that all played, like something's got to give. So I imagine it's going to be a very solid offensive line. Quarterback play of Shedeur Sanders can even be half as good of what he was at Jackson State. I think he'd probably be one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the Pac-12, 6 best quarterbacks, upper half. Defensively, they're bringing in pass rushers, they're bringing in linebackers. Secondary wise, they have one of the more experienced secondaries in the country. I'm not buying the 2 wins. I just feel like that's a little outlandish. Obviously the computers did a ton of simulations, so I guess only time will tell, but I'm going to say I disagree. I personally know I've gone on record multiple times. I think Colorado's ceiling is 6 to 7 wins. I think that's right. That's in their wheelhouse, and I wouldn't be shocked if they exceeded that, but that'd be the number that I'm confident putting on them. 6 wins, 6 to 7, sure. I think they'll exceed 2 wins, and I think they make a bowl game. I just do. I think Coach Prime is going to get these guys rowdy, and I think he's going to figure out a way to kind of help this team get. They have Sean Lewis. They have Coach Prime with Sean Lewis's offense. They have Charles Kelly from Alabama calling the plays on defense. They have a great coaching staff. They have great talents all over the field. I just don't think. I think we're undervaluing Colorado still. I think we're still in the death of the honeymoon phase, where people are like starting to extremely doubt them, and it's getting intense. And I think we just all need to take a step back. As if you're a big Colorado fan, just take a step back and realize, you know what? I mean, the only way to prove this right or wrong is the season itself. And so let's just be excited for the season. But I want to thank you guys again for your support every day. We're seeing that subscriber count continue to grow. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs. Again, I'm Kevin Borba. Make sure to like, subscribe, share this podcast with your friends, with your family, whatever it may be. The more of you that we get in here, the more stuff we can do with the pod. So I appreciate you guys, and I want to thank you guys. I will see you guys tomorrow on Wednesday. Is tomorrow, and I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Buffs your first listen. Check us out tomorrow, where we'll have transfer portal updates, the latest Coach Prime news, and everything in between. You have a great day. Have a great Wednesday. I'm Kevin Borba. This is Locked On Buffs.